Nina had been selling fruits in the village square for years. Life was tough, but she had no choice. Her grandmother was ill and the medical expenses were overwhelming. Every morning she woke up early, carried her basket of fruit and stood under the hot sun, calling out to passers-by. One morning as she arranged her fruit, a sleek silver car pulled up nearby. A tall, well-dressed man in an expensive blazer stepped out. He glanced around like he didn't belong. Then his eyes settled on her. "How much for the apples?" he asked. Nina looked up, surprised. Wealthy men like him never stopped to buy fruit from roadside vendors. 10 cetas per apple, she said calmly. He smiled and reached for his wallet, but before he could pay, a rude man shoved past him and snapped, "Move aside, rich guy, we don't have all day." Nina ignored the insult, but the rich man didn't. He turned to the rude man, his voice cold. "Watch your mouth. Selling fruit isn't a crime." The rude man looked him over, then at his designer watch, and quickly walked away. Nina raised an eyebrow. "You didn't have to do that." "Maybe I just like standing up for hardworking people," the man said. "My name is Daniel." Nina handed him the apples. "Nice to meet you, Daniel. Now, do you want more fruit, or are you just here to chat?" Daniel chuckled. "Maybe both." From a distance, someone was watching them. Marcus clenched his fists, his eyes burning with jealousy. Years ago, he had wanted Nina for himself. He had promised her money and a comfortable life, but she had turned him down. "You think you're too good for me," Marcus had sneered when she rejected him. "I don't love you, Marcus. Please stop following me," Nina had said. He had never forgotten those words. Now, seeing her smiling at another man made his blood boil. "So you turned me down, but now you're grinning at this rich guy?" he muttered. His hands balled into fists. "If I can't have you, no one will." The next day, Daniel returned to the village square. Nina frowned. "You again?" Daniel leaned on her stall, smiling. "I didn't get your name yesterday." "Nina?" Daniel smiled. "A perfect name." Nina rolled her eyes. "If you're here to joke, I've got fruit to sell." Daniel chuckled. "Actually, I have an offer. I want you to have your own fruit shop. I'll pay for everything, but you'll be the boss." Nina's eyes widened. "Why would you do that for me?" Daniel shrugged. "I believe in you. You work hard. You deserve more." Nina hesitated. She had always dreamed of owning her own fruit shop, but why would a wealthy businessman help her? "No, thank you," she said. Daniel raised an eyebrow. "Why? I don't take gifts from strangers." Daniel smirked. "Then get to know me." Nina laughed despite herself. "Fine, but I still don't trust you." "Then I'll earn your trust." From a corner, Marcus watched them, his face dark with anger. "She will regret this," he muttered. Days passed, and Daniel kept his word. He helped Nina open her shop, Nina's Fresh Picks. Customers poured in. Nina worked tirelessly, and soon her business became known all over town. Daniel visited every day. They talked, laughed, and slowly, Nina began to like him. One evening, Nina sat outside the shop looking sad. Daniel noticed. "What's wrong?" Nina sighed. "My grandmother is very sick. The clinic said she needs surgery, but I don't have the money." Daniel held her hand. "How much do you need?" Nina looked down. "A lot, more than I could ever afford." Daniel didn't hesitate. "I'll pay for it." Nina's eyes widened. "No, I can't let you do that." Daniel smiled. "I want to. Let me help." Tears filled Nina's eyes. "Daniel, I don't know what to say." "Just say yes," he whispered. Nina nodded, too emotional to speak. The next day, Daniel transferred the money. The surgery was successful. When Nina's grandmother woke up, she held her granddaughter's hand and said, "That man loves you. Don't push him away." Nina smiled. "I know, Grandma." That night, after closing the shop, Nina and Daniel walked under the streetlights. Daniel stopped walking and turned to her. "Nina, do you know why I did all this?" Nina looked at him. "Because you're kind?" Daniel smiled. "Because I love you." Nina's heart pounded. "You love me?" Daniel nodded. "Yes, I love your strength, your kindness, the way you fight for your dreams." Nina felt tears in her eyes. She had been afraid of love, afraid of pain, but Daniel was different. She took a deep breath and whispered, "I love you too." Daniel's eyes lit up. "Say it again." Nina smiled. "I love you, Daniel." Daniel pulled her close, and under the night sky they shared their first kiss. But not everyone was happy. Marcus sat in his office, his face twisted in rage. "So she loves him now, after rejecting me?" he growled. He picked up his phone. "Find a way to destroy her fruit shop. I want her to suffer." On the other end, Lila, Nina's assistant, smiled wickedly. Consider it done. Nina had never been this happy. Her grandmother was healthy again. Her shop was thriving, and Daniel was always by her side. Every morning, he would visit before heading to work. He'd sit by the counter, watching her sort produce, teasing her, making her laugh. She loved how he made her feel safe, how he believed in her, even when she doubted herself. One evening after closing the shop, Daniel took her hand and looked into her eyes. "Nina, you don't know how much I love you," he said softly. Nina felt her heart race. "I love you too, Daniel," she whispered. He smiled and kissed her gently. That night, she couldn't stop thinking about him. She had never believed she would fall in love, but with Daniel, everything felt right. But while Nina was happy, Marcus was seething with rage. He sat in his office, staring at pictures of Nina and Daniel on his phone. He had paid someone to follow them, to track their every move. Seeing them together made his blood boil. "She rejected me, but now she's giving her heart to him?" he muttered. He clenched his fists, his mind racing with dark thoughts. He picked up his phone and called Lila. "It's time," he said. Lila, Nina's assistant, smiled wickedly. "Don't worry, boss. I'll make sure her fruit shop is destroyed." The next morning, Nina arrived at the shop early as usual. She greeted her staff, put on her apron, and started setting up. The smell of fresh fruit filled the air, and customers were already lining up outside, waiting for the shop to open. But just as she was about to unlock the door, health inspectors stormed in. "This shop is being shut down," one of them announced. Nina froze. "What? Why?" she asked, her heart pounding. The inspector handed her a notice. "We received reports that you're selling expired produce. Your shop is not safe for customers." Nina's hands trembled as she read the paper. "That's not true. We only use fresh stock," she protested. Outside, a crowd began to form. People whispered among themselves. "I knew she wasn't a real entrepreneur," someone sneered. "Daniel made her rich, and now she's been exposed," another added. Nina felt dizzy. How could this be happening? And then she heard a voice cut deeper than the rest. She didn't even finish school. How could someone like her run a business? Nina's stomach dropped. It was true. She had left school early to care for her grandmother. She had worked harder than anyone, but that comment brought back every insecurity she had buried. Her chest tightened. The shame of her background, her sacrifices, all of it came rushing back in a wave of doubt. She turned to Lila. "Did you know about this?" Lila faked a shocked expression. "No, Nina. I swear I don't know anything." But inside she was smiling. Daniel arrived just in time to see the authorities sealing the doors. "What the hell is going on?" he demanded. Nina looked at him, tears in her eyes. "They shut me down, Daniel. They think I'm selling spoiled fruit. They think I'm poisoning people." Her voice broke. Daniel's jaw clenched. "This is a setup," he said firmly. Nina shook her head. "It doesn't matter. It's over," she whispered. Daniel cupped her face. "Don't say that. We'll fight this," he promised. But Nina pulled away. "Daniel, maybe they're right. Maybe I don't belong in your world," she said. Daniel's heart twisted. "Don't say that," he pleaded. But Nina had already turned and walked into the rain, leaving him standing there, helpless. From a distance, Marcus watched from his car, smirking. "And just like that, she falls," he said. But what he didn't know was that Daniel was not a man to give up easily. That night, Daniel sat in his office going through the security footage from the shop. He knew someone had set Nina up, and he was determined to find out who. Then suddenly, he saw something that made his blood boil. Lila. She had been sneaking into Nina's office at night. Daniel rewound the footage and saw her slipping documents into Nina's files, his hands clenched into fists. "So it was you," he muttered. The next morning, he stormed into Lila's apartment. She opened the door, shocked to see him. "Daniel, what are you?" Before she could finish, he snatched her phone and scrolled through her messages. He found the text between her and Marcus. "It's done," Lila had written. "She's ruined." Daniel's eyes darkened. "How much did he pay you to betray Nina?" he asked coldly. Lila trembled. "Daniel, please, I can explain." "Save it," he snapped. "You're going to confess everything." An hour later, Daniel dragged Lila to Nina's house. Nina opened the door, her face pale and tired. She hadn't slept all night. "Daniel, what are you doing here?" she asked weakly. "We need to talk," he said. Then he turned to Lila. "Tell her the truth." Lila looked down, ashamed. "Nina, I betrayed you," she whispered. "I was working for Marcus. He told me to plant fake evidence in your shop. He wanted to destroy you." Nina's heart sank. Marcus? She repeated, her voice shaking. Lila nodded. He never forgave you for rejecting him. He wanted revenge. Nina covered her mouth, trying to hold back tears. Daniel stepped forward. Nina, you are not a failure. You didn't deserve this, and I swear, I will make Marcus pay. Nina looked at him, her eyes filled with emotion. Daniel, I don't know what to say, she whispered. He took her hands. Say you believe in us. Say you won't give up, he said softly. Nina took a deep breath. I believe in us, she whispered. Daniel smiled and pulled her into his arms, but their happiness was short-lived. That night, Daniel's phone rang. He picked up. Hello? If you want to see Nina's grandmother alive, bring $1 million, a voice said coldly. Daniel's heart stopped. Who is this? You have 24 hours. The voice said, then ended the call. Daniel turned to Nina, his face pale. Your grandmother, she's been kidnapped. Nina gasped. No, who would do this? She cried. Daniel clenched his fists. It's him, he growled. He grabbed his car keys and headed for the door. Nina ran after him. Daniel, please, don't do anything crazy. He turned to her, his eyes burning with fury. I won't let him hurt you again. Then he drove off into the night, leaving Nina in tears, standing in the doorway. In an abandoned warehouse, Marcus smirked as he watched Nina's grandmother tied to a chair. Daniel thinks he can take everything from me? Let's see how far he's willing to go, he said. His men laughed. You think he'll really come alone? One of them asked. Marcus smirked. He will, because he loves her. At that moment, Daniel sped through the streets, his hands gripping the steering wheel. He had never been this furious. He was going to end this once and for all. And if Marcus wanted a war, Daniel was ready to bring it. Daniel clutched the wheel tighter, his mind racing. His heart burned with anger, but deep inside, he knew the truth. Marcus wasn't stupid. If he had the nerve to kidnap Nina's grandmother, then he had dangerous people backing him. What if they were armed? What if there were many of them? He couldn't rush in blindly and risk getting himself killed. He took a deep breath and pulled over. Then he grabbed his phone and dialed a number. The police chief answered. This is Daniel. I need your help, Daniel said, his voice firm. What's going on? The chief asked. A man named Marcus has kidnapped someone. He's demanding $1 million. But if I go there alone, I might not come back. The chief was silent for a moment. Then he said, We'll handle it. Tell him you're bringing the money, but we'll be ready to take him down. Daniel exhaled slowly. Thank you. Then he called Marcus. I have the money, Daniel said, keeping his voice steady. Marcus laughed on the other end. Good boy. I knew you'd make the right choice. Bring it to the warehouse. Come alone. Fine, Daniel replied. An hour later, Daniel arrived at the warehouse. He parked his car outside and stepped out holding a black briefcase. He had to stay calm. He knew the police were nearby, hidden, watching everything. The warehouse doors creaked open and Marcus stepped out, wearing a smug smile. Behind him stood 5 men, all holding guns. In the center sat Nina's grandmother, tied to a chair, looking frail and terrified. Where's the money? Marcus asked, stepping forward. Daniel held up the briefcase. Right here. Marcus grinned. Good, drop it on the ground and step back. Daniel hesitated, scanning the surroundings. The police had to be in position. Let my mother-in-law go first, Daniel said. Marcus burst out laughing. Mother-in-law? Oh, Daniel, don't tell me you actually love that fruit seller. You could have any woman you want, but you choose her? Daniel clenched his fists. Let her go, Marcus. Marcus smirked. Burst the money. Daniel sighed and slowly bent down to place the briefcase on the ground. Then, a loud gunshot echoed through the air. Before Marcus and his men could react, the warehouse doors burst open. Police! Drop your weapons! Officers shouted as sirens wailed and authorities stormed in from all directions. Marcus's men tried to escape, but they had nowhere to run. Within seconds, they were surrounded, guns pointed at them. One officer tackled Marcus to the ground, twisting his arms behind his back. You set me up, Marcus roared, struggling. Daniel smirked. You were never going to win, Marcus. Nina's grandmother was quickly untied and led to safety. She was trembling but unharmed. One by one, Marcus's men were handcuffed and taken away, but Daniel wasn't finished yet. Where's Lila? Daniel asked the police. An officer stepped forward, dragging Lila toward them. We found her trying to run. She was working with Marcus, the officer said. Lila's face was pale with fear. Daniel, please. I was forced to do it. I didn't have a choice. Daniel looked at her coldly. You had a choice, Lila, and you chose to betray Nina. Lila burst into tears as the police led her away with the rest of Marcus's crew. Daniel turned to Nina's grandmother. Are you okay? She nodded weakly. Thank you, Daniel. Daniel sighed in relief. Let's go home. That night, Nina sat outside her house waiting. She hadn't eaten or slept since learning her grandmother had been kidnapped. When she heard the sound of a car pulling in, she jumped to her feet. Daniel stepped out, and behind him, her grandmother slowly got out of the car. Mama! Nina screamed, running toward her. Her grandmother opened her arms, and Nina threw herself into them, sobbing. I thought I lost you, Nina cried. Her grandmother stroked her hair gently. I'm here, my daughter, thanks to Daniel. Nina looked up at Daniel, her eyes full of emotion. You saved her, she whispered. Daniel smiled. I told you, I'd never let anything happen to your family. Nina wiped her tears and ran into his arms. Daniel held her tightly. I love you, Daniel, she whispered. Daniel kissed her forehead. I love you too, Nina, more than anything in this world. Her grandmother smiled as she watched them hold each other. People like Marcus will always exist, she said, but love is stronger than any enemy. Daniel looked into Nina's eyes. Nothing will ever come between us again. Nina nodded, feeling safe in his arms, but little did they know, their story was far from over. Daniel felt it was time. He had made up his mind. Nina was the woman he loved, and he wanted his mother to meet her. He knew his mother could be difficult, but he believed that once she met Nina, once she saw the kind of woman she was, she would accept her with open arms. That evening, he took Nina to his family estate. Nina was nervous. Daniel, what if she doesn't like me? She asked softly. Daniel held her hand. She will. You're everything a mother would want for her son. Nina smiled, but inside she was scared. When they arrived, the house was grand, bigger than anything Nina had ever seen. A maid opened the door and led them inside. Daniel's mother, Madame Eleanor, sat in a luxurious living room, dressed in an elegant gown, sipping tea. She was a woman of authority, used to having control over everything around her. Daniel stepped forward, smiling. Mother, I want you to meet someone special, he said. Madame Eleanor looked up, her sharp eyes locking onto Nina. She scanned her from head to toe, noting the simple dress, the nervous way she stood, and the hands marked by years of hard work. Good evening, ma'am, Nina greeted politely, bowing slightly. Madame Eleanor did not respond right away. She set her tea down, folded her arms, and turned to Daniel. Who is she? Daniel smiled, still holding Nina's hand. Her name is Nina. She's the woman I love. Silence filled the room. Madame Eleanor's eyes darkened. Where is she from? Daniel hesitated. She grew up in the countryside. She had a small stall selling fruit, but now she owns her own shop. Madame Eleanor's expression turned cold. A fruit seller? Daniel's jaw tightened. She is more than that, Mother. She's hardworking, strong, and kind. She's the reason I believe in love again. Madame Eleanor's face remained unreadable. Then she turned to Nina. Who are your parents? Nina swallowed hard. My grandmother raised me. My parents passed away years ago. It's just been the two of us. Madame Eleanor's lips curled into a thin smile. So? You are poor. Daniel's eyes widened. Mother, that's not important. Madame Eleanor ignored him, her gaze still fixed on Nina. Do you know that my son was once used and discarded by a poor girl? She said, her voice sharp. Daniel stiffened. Mother, stop. But Madame Eleanor continued, her voice rising. Do you know how much he suffered? He gave his heart to a girl from nothing, thinking she loved him. But once she had what she wanted, she left him. She broke him. And now you expect me to watch him make the same mistake again? Nina's hands trembled. I'm not that girl, ma'am, she said softly. Madame Eleanor scoffed. That's what they all say. Daniel stepped in front of Nina, his face tight with anger. Mother, Nina is different. She's not after my money. She's never asked for anything. She built her life from the ground up. Madame Eleanor shook her head. I will not let history repeat itself. My son will not marry a poor girl. Daniel clenched his fists. I love her, Mother. That will never change. Madame Eleanor's expression remained hard. Then you will have to choose, your family or this girl. Daniel's heart pounded. Mother, don't do this. I have spoken, Madame Eleanor said firmly. You are my only son, Daniel. I want the best for you. And this girl is not the best. Nina's eyes filled with tears. She turned to Daniel. Maybe she's right, Nina whispered. Maybe I don't belong here. Daniel grabbed her hand. Don't say that. We belong together. Madame Eleanor stood. If you walk out of this house with her, do not come back. Daniel stared at his mother, stunned. You're really going to push me away over this? Madame Eleanor's eyes did not waver. I'm protecting you. Daniel shook his head in disappointment. He turned to Nina, his grip on her hand tightening. Tightening, let's go, Daniel said. Nina hesitated. Daniel, no, she's your mother. Daniel's voice was firm. And you are my future. Madame Eleanor watched as her son led Nina out of the house. Her heart ached, but she refused to show weakness. He'll come back, she whispered to herself. He'll realize his mistake. Nina got home feeling drained. Her heart was heavy, her eyes filled with unshed tears. She had never imagined that love could be this difficult. She sat on the bed, staring at nothing, replaying everything that had happened at Daniel's house. His mother's cold words echoed in her mind. You are poor. My son will not marry a girl like you. If you walk out of this house with her, do not come back. The pain in Daniel's eyes when he chose her over his own mother broke her heart even more. She knew he loved her. But was love enough? Could she really marry into a family that didn't accept her? Her grandmother walked into the room and saw her sitting in silence. She sat beside her. Nina, what is wrong? She asked gently. Nina looked at her grandmother, and just like that, the tears she had been holding back began to fall. Mama, I'm done. I can't marry Daniel, she whispered. Her grandmother frowned. What do you mean? Nina wiped her face. His mother doesn't like me. She doesn't want her son to marry someone poor. She told him to choose between me and his family. And he chose me. Mama, I can't be the reason he loses his family. Her grandmother sighed. My child, love is not always easy, but do you think walking away is the right decision? Nina sniffled. I love him, Mama, more than anything. But what if his mother never accepts me? Her grandmother held her hands. Then you prove her wrong. Nina shook her head. I don't think she'll ever change. Her grandmother smiled softly. A mother always wants the best for her child. Daniel's mother doesn't hate you, Nina. She's just afraid. She's seen her son heartbroken before, and she's scared it will happen again. But you cannot give up on Daniel so quickly. That man loves you. Nina's lips trembled. I know, Mama. I see it in his eyes. I feel it in my heart. But her words, they hurt. Her grandmother wiped her tears. Then be calm, my daughter. Let time show her the truth. Love does not rush. If Daniel truly loves you, he won't give up, and neither should you. Nina exhaled slowly. Mama, what if she never accepts me? What if this love ends in pain? Her grandmother smiled again. Love always faces obstacles, but if it's real, it will win. You cannot run away just because things are hard. If Daniel has chosen you, then you must stand beside him. Nina closed her eyes, thinking deeply. She loved Daniel with all her heart, but was she strong enough to face this fight? Her grandmother gently held her chin. You are strong, my child. Don't let fear take away your happiness. Nina nodded slowly. She knew her. Her grandmother was right. But deep inside, Nina still wondered, would Daniel's mother ever change her mind? Or was this just the beginning of a bigger battle? Meanwhile, Daniel sat in his office, staring at his desk, deep in thought. His heart was heavy. Since the argument with his mother, he hadn't been able to concentrate on work. He loved Nina, but the way his mother had treated her hurt him deeply. He sighed, running a hand over his face. Just then, the door opened and his father stepped inside. Daniel, we need to talk, he said. Daniel looked up, surprised. His father was calm and rational, very different from his mother, who always wanted things her way. Daniel nodded. Come in, Dad. His father sat down. Your mother told me everything. Daniel sighed. I figured she would. His father leaned forward. I think she's just being protective, Daniel. You know how she is. After what happened in the past, she's scared. She doesn't want you to go through that pain again. Daniel shook his head. I understand, Dad, but she had no right to say those things to Nina. She should have respected me, her own son. His father nodded slowly. I agree. She was too harsh. I told her she could have handled it better. But you know how stubborn she gets once she's made up her mind. Daniel sighed again. I just wish she would listen. Nina is different. She's not after money. She never even wanted my help in the beginning. She's strong, hardworking, and kind. I love her, Dad, and I know she loves me too. His father studied him closely, seeing the sincerity in his son's eyes. I believe you, son. and I'll talk to your mother when I get home. Maybe with time she'll understand. Daniel felt a bit of relief. Please do, Dad. I really love this woman. She means everything to me. His father smiled. I know you do. That's why I'll try my best to help her see what you see in Nina. Daniel nodded. He had been feeling hopeless, but at least he knew his father was on his side. His father looked at him and chuckled. You know, you look like a man who just lost his favorite meal. Daniel raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? You've been sitting here like someone stole your last plate of jollof rice, his father said, laughing. Daniel couldn't help but laugh. His father always knew how to make him better. Come on, son, cheer up. Love isn't always easy, but it's worth fighting for. Daniel smiled. Thanks, Dad. His father stood up. Now get back to work. This company won't run itself. Your company won't run itself, his father said. Daniel laughed again. Yes, sir. As his father walked out, Daniel felt a little lighter. He still had a battle ahead, but at least he knew he wasn't fighting it alone. Daniel's father arrived home, tired but determined. He had promised his son that he would speak to his wife, and that's exactly what he intended to do. He walked into the living room and found Madame Eleanor sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone, her expression still cold with anger. We need to talk, he said firmly. Madame Eleanor didn't look up. There's nothing to talk about. Daniel's father sighed. Eleanor, calm down. You're taking this too far. Madame Eleanor finally looked at him, her eyes sharp. Too far? So now I'm the problem? I am protecting my son. Daniel's father shook his head. No, you're trying to control him. Daniel is a grown man. He's chosen the woman he loves. Why can't you accept that? Madame Eleanor scoffed. Because she's poor. She's not of his class. Daniel has already suffered because of a girl like that. I won't let it happen again. Daniel's father narrowed his eyes. Are you going to marry your son? Madame Eleanor gasped. What did you just say? You heard me, he said, his voice rising. Are you planning to marry Daniel? Because from the way you're acting, it seems like you want to control his love life forever. Madame Eleanor stood up, her hands shaking with anger. How dare you talk to me like this? But Daniel's father wasn't done. Where was your family when I met you, Eleanor? Were they wealthy? No. Your father was a school teacher. Your mother sold vegetables. You weren't rich, but I married you because I loved you. So why are you acting like poverty is a crime? Madame Eleanor's face turned red with fury. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. You're insulting me because of that girl, she shouted. I'm telling you the truth, Daniel's father snapped. You've forgotten where you came from. And now you want to ruin your son's happiness because of your pride. Madame Eleanor couldn't take it anymore. She turned and stormed off, her heels clicking loudly on the marble floor. She marched straight to her room, slammed the door shut, and picked up her phone. Her hands shook with rage as she dialed Nina's number. The moment Nina answered, Madame Eleanor didn't waste a second. You witch, she spat. Nina frowned. Excuse me, who is this, please? You are the reason my family is falling apart. You want to destroy everything I've built, but you won't succeed. Nina's heart skipped. Madame Eleanor? So you know my name. Good, Madame Eleanor hissed. Because I want you to listen carefully. Leave my son alone. Stay away from Daniel before you regret ever meeting him. Nina felt her hands tremble. Ma, with all due respect, I love Daniel. I'm not trying to destroy anything. Liar, Madame Eleanor shouted. This is why I hate poor people. Always pretending to be innocent. I know your type. You see a rich man and suddenly you act like a saint, but I know the truth. You're nothing but an opportunist. Nina felt something stir inside her, something between anger and heartbreak. I've never asked Daniel for anything. I work hard, and everything he's done for me, he did out of love. I love your son for who he is, not what he has. Madame Eleanor laughed bitterly. That's what they all say, but I've seen girls like you. You act humble, then you turn him against me. Look what you've done. Daniel walked out on me because of you. You think you've won? You must leave my son alone. Nina took a deep breath. She had taken enough. And what if I don't leave him? Silence. Then Madame Eleanor's voice came back, colder than before. You wouldn't dare. Just try me. Nina tightened her grip on the phone. Daniel is not a child. He chose me. I will not walk away just because you don't like me. Then prepare for war, Madame Eleanor spat, because I will make sure this relationship ends in pain. You can try, Nina said calmly, but love is stronger than hate. Madame Eleanor let out a bitter laugh. You have no idea who you're dealing with. Before Nina could say another word, the line went dead. She put the phone down, her heart pounding. She had never been insulted like that before. But she wasn't afraid. She loved Daniel, and she was ready to fight for him. Nina's grandmother was alone in the living room, enjoying the quiet evening when she heard a knock at the door. She stood up, wondering who it could be. Slowly, she walked to the door and opened it. The moment she saw the woman standing there, her eyes widened in shock. "Eleanor," she whispered, not believing her eyes. Madame Eleanor was just as stunned. "Margaret, what are you doing here?" Nina's grandmother frowned. "This is my house. What are you doing here?" Madame Eleanor took a step back, still trying to process everything. "You mean you're Nina's grandmother?" Margaret nodded. "Yes, I am, but how did you get this address and what brings you here?" Madame Eleanor stood speechless for a moment. She shook her head in disbelief. "I came here because of my son, Daniel. He told me he loves a girl named Nina. I came to warn her to stay away from him, but I had no idea she was your granddaughter." Margaret's eyes softened. "Daniel is your son?" Madame Eleanor nodded. "Yes, and you're Nina's grandmother?" Margaret took a deep breath, her heart racing. "It's been so long. I've prayed for this day, that we'd meet again." Madame Eleanor felt her throat tighten. Memories of their childhood, school days, and the deep friendship they once shared came rushing back. They had been inseparable, best friends, but life had taken them down different paths. After marriage and moving to separate cities, they lost contact. And now, after all these years, they were standing in front of each other again. Not just as old friends, but as the mothers of two people deeply in love. Tears welled in Margaret's eyes. "I can't believe this. After all these years, we're finally seeing each other again." Madame Eleanor swallowed hard. "Margaret, I've missed you so much." Without thinking, they stepped forward and embraced tightly. "I missed you too," Margaret whispered. They held on to each other, overcome with emotion. The past didn't matter. The years apart didn't matter. All that mattered was that two long-lost friends had found each other again. After a long moment, they pulled away, smiling through their tears. Madame Eleanor wiped her eyes. "I never imagined this. My son is in love with your granddaughter." Margaret laughed softly. "Yes, and he loves her deeply, just like we once loved each other as friends." Madame Eleanor shook her head in wonder. "Life truly has a way of surprising us." Margaret nodded. "It does. But now that we are here, maybe this is a sign. Maybe our children are meant to be together. Just like we were meant to meet again." Madame Eleanor looked down, thinking deeply. Her heart, once filled with anger and resistance, now felt lighter. Was this fate? Was this God's plan? She took a deep breath. "Margaret, I don't know what to say," Nina's grandmother smiled. "Then don't say anything yet. Just think about it. Don't let the past control the future. Give Nina a chance." Madame Eleanor returned home still in shock from everything that had happened. She sat down in the living room, staring into space, lost in thought. She couldn't believe that after all these years she had finally found her best friend, Margaret. The same Margaret she had once shared everything with, laughed with, cried with. And now, fate had brought them back together through their children. She thought about everything she had said to Nina, all the insults, all the hatred she had harbored, and for what? She felt ashamed. She picked up her phone and dialed Daniel's number. The phone rang twice before he picked up. "Mother?" Daniel's voice was hesitant, expecting another confrontation. Madame Eleanor took a deep breath. "Daniel, my son, I need to talk to you." Daniel frowned. "What is it, Mother?" Madame Eleanor exhaled slowly. "I went to see Nina today." Daniel sat up straight. "What? Mother, what did you do? Did you insult her again?" Madame Eleanor shook her head, though he couldn't see her. "No, my son, I went there to stop her from marrying you, but something unexpected happened." Daniel was confused. "What do you mean?" Madame Eleanor smiled softly to herself. "Daniel, Nina's grandmother, Margaret, is my best friend from long ago." Daniel's eyes widened in shock. "What? Nina's grandmother is your friend?" "Yes, my son. We lost contact after we both got married and moved to different cities. I had no idea her granddaughter was the same woman you love." Daniel was speechless. He never could have imagined this. "Mother, I can't believe this. So what does this mean?" Madame Eleanor's voice softened. It means, my son, that I was wrong. I judged Nina unfairly. I assumed she was just after your money, but I was wrong. Her grandmother is a good, well-mannered woman, and if she raised Nina, then I know Nina must be a good woman too. She paused. I'm sorry for everything, my son. You can go ahead with the marriage. I support you, fully. Daniel couldn't believe what he was hearing. Mother? Are you serious? Madame Eleanor smiled. Yes, my son. I am serious. I want you to be happy. If Nina is the one who makes you happy, then I will stand by you. Daniel felt tears in his eyes. He had fought so hard for this moment. He had been ready to go against his mother for the woman he loved, and now she was giving him her full support. Thank you, Mother, he said softly. This means everything to me. I'm the one who should be thanking you, Madame Eleanor replied, for not giving up on love, even when I made it difficult for you. After the call ended, Daniel didn't waste a second. He quickly dialed Nina's number, excitement rushing through him. He had been waiting for this moment, and now everything was finally falling into place. When Nina picked up, her voice was calm. Daniel? Is everything okay? Okay, Daniel said, unable to hold back his excitement. Baby, I have good news. Nina sat up. What is it? Daniel took a deep breath, grinning. My mother went to see you today, right? Nina frowned. No, I wasn't home, but my grandmother told me she came by. Why? Daniel laughed. Well, that same mother of mine just called me. She told me everything. She found out that your grandmother is her best friend from years ago, and now she's given us her full blessing. Nina gasped. Daniel, are you serious? Yes, baby. Daniel laughed. She said we can go ahead with our wedding. She supports us fully. Nina covered her mouth, tears filling her eyes. Oh my God, Daniel, I never thought this day would come. Daniel smiled. It's here, baby, and I don't want to waste any more time. Nina wiped her tears. What do you mean? Daniel took a deep breath. Let's get married in 2 weeks. Nina froze. Daniel, are you joking? Daniel laughed. I'm serious, my love. We've waited long enough. I don't want to wait anymore. Baby, marry me. Nina's heart raced. She had dreamed of this day, but never thought it would come so soon. Daniel, Daniel chuckled. Don't tell me you're thinking about it. Say yes, my love. Nina laughed through her tears. Yes, Daniel, I will marry you. Daniel cheered. That's my girl. 2 weeks later, the wedding took place. It was a beautiful ceremony filled with love, laughter, and joy. Nina looked stunning in her white gown, and Daniel couldn't take his eyes off her as she walked down the aisle. His heart swelled with happiness. Madame Eleanor and Margaret stood side by side, smiling as they watched their children unite in love. When the vows were exchanged, Daniel held Nina's hands and looked into her eyes. Nina, from the moment I met you, I knew you were special. You've shown me love in its purest form. I promise to love, cherish, and protect you for the rest of my life. Nina smiled, tears in her eyes. Daniel, you are my best friend, my protector, my love. I promise to stand by you through good times and bad, for the rest of my life. The priest smiled. By the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride. Daniel didn't hesitate. He pulled Nina close and kissed her deeply as the crowd erupted in cheers. Madame Eleanor wiped away tears from her eyes. She had fought against this love, but now she saw how true and beautiful it was. She leaned toward Margaret and whispered, Our children have found what we once had. This is how love should be. Margaret smiled. Yes, Eleanor, and I pray they remain happy forever. After the wedding, Daniel and Nina started their new life together, filled with love, peace, and happiness, and they lived happily ever after. Dear viewers, what lessons did you take away from this dramatic tale? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed the story, give us a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss our latest updates. Thanks for watching, and stay blessed.